Morning, everyone. Like to call the joint O and M committee meeting December 2nd to order. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the prior meeting. Motion made by Supervisor Wild.
Second.
Seconded by Chairman Garrity. So you have two people here. Three. Okay. Privilege of the floor and public comment. We have vote on the minutes. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Privilege of the floor and public comment. Discussion items, festival space update.
So I will turn that over to the mayor. I don't have any extra updates. I will tell you that the grounds are looking fairly good. Now, you're not gonna see them anymore because they're covered with snow, but they certainly did recover over this past year. And I think the mayor wants to talk about several things for next year, as well as the playground update that they just have completed.
Yeah, we have several dates that are tentative for next year, a couple that are booked. Applications usually start filtering in around January for the use for the upcoming summer. It was a pretty rough summer as far as bookings go. The year prior, a lot of our longstanding tenants or renters, as you would say, got burned the last year, between a hurricane and it raining on every weekend. A lot of people complain about the price. A lot of people complain that there's nowhere to go when it does rain, unless they rent a tent. There's decent amount of conversations going on about maybe restructuring, maybe having a landscape architect take a look at what we could do to change the way the park works. Maybe, I hate to say it, put a building in. We tore down in my opinion, at the time, and still is, perfectly good building. When we built the park, I didn't have any say in that at the time. I wasn't around. So, but I did go and visit the building. Vinny tried, I know.
When you say building, would you think pavilion or four walls?
I'm thinking at least one wall. Like my vision, and I'm not sure if anyone's gonna share that, is to cut into the bank. I could relocate some of the playground equipment and put it in the bank, which is facing north, or west. But that's, a topic for conversation, maybe after we have someone who knows a lot more about landscape architecture than myself. But I think there is the desire by the people booking the events to have a place as an alternate location, which is adjacent to the primary location. But I mean, we have to talk about that.
You think there's a solid demand still if it was strong? Kevin had brought up that the Jeep and Dutcher actually had reached out about possibly using it for camping.
Yeah, the Jeep people love that aspect of things. That's why when they would come, and they're slated to come Father's Day weekend this year. And it's a big event. I mean, he has about 1,500 followers, and he joined forces with, there's a Jeep group out of Amsterdam area, and they're about 900 strong. So it would be a lot of Jeeps, and usually they would book trail rides, but insurance has really crushed the places that have, because they're motorized vehicles. So their desire is to drive into the woods and camp. And he took a poll of his members, and 85% of them said they'd still come to Lake George without the camping. So that pushed him forward to his big events in Wildwood. And they have about 1,500 Jeeps that go to that.
New Jersey?
Yeah.
Right on the beach.
Right on the
Yeah,
beach.
right on the beach. Yeah.
Now, we can't offer him that, but we can offer him
Yeah, they'll be here June 19th,
Yeah.
that weekend. Yeah. A lot of discussion on the festival space, and there was a lot of discussion yesterday at the OCTAX committee meeting. Different ideas, different approaches, but you're as close to it as anybody, so.
Yeah, I hear more about the festival space than probably everyone, not to you know, not to brag, but I get all the emails.
Good and bad.
Good and bad. Mostly lately, not great. Mostly not great, but we've got to get the fountain fixed. We put a playground in that we took out of Shepherd Park to replace a log play feature that really just rotted away as wood would do in the
Yeah.
elements over 10 years. So we took a playground that we had, since we're putting a new one in Shepherd Park, just to have something. We've ordered the slide to be replaced, the big long 27, 8 foot slide. So
The other one up yet or not?
we didn't get to the slide yet. We'll probably put it up in the spring. We'll have to store it until then.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a nice feature that really looks like a void now that it's not there. It just looks like steps that go to nowhere. So that'll be a big improvement. As far as usage, we do have a lot of interest this year. I think, as with labor pains, people forget the pain that they experienced a couple of years ago
Yeah.
and are willing to give it another shot. So we've got a decent amount of conversations and inquiries. Deb, if I could have gotten the printout I was supposed to bring, I would have a comprehensive list of the requests and the queries that we have so far, but our office is closed today due to the snow.
You think most of the concerns are consistent or they jump all over?
The
Yesterday,
most consistent, it's price and rain, price and weather. Weather is always the number one indicator if an event's gonna be successful.
okay.
And it's also,
Yeah.
unfortunately, the one thing we can't change.
You know, you talked about electricity yesterday. How many amp services coming into that? Is
There's a
it
400
800?
amp service there, and then there's
two
the
different services.
two different, yeah,
Yeah.
the other one could be converted, but the cost, and the request for that is coming from basically one place. I would love to see more outlets. I would love to see a redesign of the whole park and, with appropriate power, in locations so that, you know, there's an added charge for that, but it's an expensive place to rent, especially, when ticket sales drive the cost. Whether you do a ticketed craft fair or where you have to pay to get in, or you charge your vendors more. There's just different combinations and different mindsets of that, but the generator noise from each of the vendors setting up generators, if we could provide an underground network of power sources, we have plenty of water, plenty of power there. It's just who's gonna pay for it? And so far, the only person that's requesting it is Americape.
Kevin?
So I'll add on is, so each one of the lamp posts that are out on the Charles Arwood Park, which are around the entire ring road, they all have power. Power that can be accessed by vendors. There is also when Ice Castles was here, they put in a 400 amp service. They pay for it. They put in a 400 amp service. It can certainly be knocked down to a 120, 240, of course, with a transformer or a sub panel, but there's a cost associated with that. I don't know that we've put in a cost to that yet. I believe when Christian had asked for it, there was a conversation with him as whether or not he would foot the cost of that. I don't recall what he said.
I'd be no.
Yeah, so, and again, I mean, we could certainly, but that's an expense to us. And the revenue that's associated with the park goes to the county and the village, and basically is to maintain the park, and then it also can be used by the 3 E's, now down to 2 E's, for any restoration work that is done on the south parcel. So, and I'm looking at Jim because he's here, but he's aware of it because they do a lot of the inspections of the south parcel. So, there's not a lot of funding that comes out of that can be used for anything else.
There's surplus.
There is right now, I want to say there's probably almost $200,000 in there right now.
Did that come from revenue from renting?
That's what it comes from, is revenue from renting. And remember that any event that has an event in the park and also uses the county parking lot at the same time in front of the park, that goes to that surplus money. The normal money that comes in for just normal parking there, that goes into a different account. But if it's associated with an event, then that also goes into that funding as well.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I recall some time ago that I think it was Supervisor Stroud that mentioned something about a covered structure.
Yeah.
To be able to help deal with the rain and the weather issues. It seems like we're just kind of patching, putting Band-Aids on things with what we have here. Is it time for something more strategic? Right, to
In
be
my
able to
opinion-
take this,
opinion, yes, yeah, but
so we have $200,000 in reserve right now, no? Surplus.
Can I back up? It's not all the county's money. It also goes to the two E's and any work that is done on the south parcel. So it's not all county money based on the conservation initiative contract that was written up.
Okay, so, but what's the strategy moving forward? Is it going to continue with the Band-Aids, or are we going to do something different with the park? That's going to make it more viable so that people aren't complaining about weather issues.
I agree. I mean, I think we should talk about it further. I actually just spoke with Chairman Garrity about it. It is an issue. We get complaints, they trickle in, they move upwards from me to the county level. It's a beautiful park, but it's not without its flaws. And I believe we talked about several different things, AstroTurf, I believe it's settled. It doesn't drain off as efficiently as it used to. And I think that's, as Kevin has mentioned, we've repaired so much sod and the fibered reinforcement that was mixed in with the original soils, I think is pretty much depleted.
There in any spots to be repaired.
So it could be time for an all-out refresh. I've been speaking with Ethan Gaddy about potentially getting a landscape architect and looking at what other solutions other regions have done, other places similar to our climate. And I would welcome the ability to entertain that type of pricing and come back to, I mean, I can do a decent amount of the legwork. Kevin and I work really well together. We talk about the park more than I think anything else. Maybe Clarkson.
I'll just add on is as opposed to using a lot of that surplus, I mean, we certainly could use some. It would be up to the committee of whether or not they'd want to kind of get this concept plan of moving forward with something new. There's also grant funding out there, and that's something else that Ethan certainly could look into for parks and other spaces like that. There is grant funding through, whether it's through DOS or DEC or something. So something that maybe Ethan, if we want to have him look into, as opposed to depleting that revenue or revenue account that we have, is maybe looking at grant funding and see if there's some grant funding available to be able to do this work.
Well, another approach would be to obviously take advantage of that, but maybe we could float a bond for something like that. If we're positive in terms of our revenue, that could offset some of the costs for the bond and have a structure built.
If we make it more profitable, the ROI will be there.
Just a thought.
It's like those three magic letters.
Three magic letters, ROI.
You're right, though. You're absolutely right. Mayor, you said you have a list of some of the concerns with it. To move forward, I absolutely believe we should. I'm just one person. But I'd like to see what the people that want to rent it, what their concerns are, what the demand is, what the demand is. If we make the changes, will the demand increase on it? Are we just throwing money away? It's a great location. It's a good location, but so many people want to be Shepherd Park. They want to be right there. But it's certainly a great location. Can we make it to where we think we can? Can we get it to that level? Is the demand there to get it to that level if we make changes, or we just, and how do we get to that point?
Yeah, I believe,
Sasha, I
Mhm.
talked to last night again. I think they all have good points. I really do. Tow truck, I don't know what the answer is to that. The park is gonna be, when it's done with a big event, it's gonna look used. It's not gonna look perfect. And that's something we have to either accept and figure out, or, I mean, the tow trucks are a big event. It was a muddy weekend, they're heavy trucks, even on a dry weekend, you know, can they continue to use it?
And again, going back to the grass being not what it was, and with the fiber, with the first few times, I would say 5 or 6 times the tow trucks came, you didn't even know they were there, because the fiber reinforcement
Yeah.
worked. I think there's other alternatives. Administrator Taflin and I talked about AstroTurf. It's a pretty big expense, and it gets hot. But it's a good alternative to. I think we talked about the definition of insanity a little while ago. Doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, and I think we're doing just that right now. And I think not to quote that famous workout lady, we need to stop the insanity.
Kevin?
Yeah, one of the things that was discussed in the past in the use of the space is, and I think we've gotten a better handle on it, we should continue, is when we have those weather conditions, we need to be the direction of individuals coming in there. It wasn't just tow trucks. When Christian came in with Americade, they certainly created a lot of damage in there as well from the trucks that they have. Tow trucks are tow trucks. What Christian brings in is a lot of, 18-wheeler type of vehicles within that space. And if they're not moved around by our staff, then they just drive anywhere and that's where, more oversight on our part is needed. And that's what was talked about in the past. The other thing I'll bring up is just recall, there's a big lake right next door to this park. And where that water level is on that lake is maybe 1.5 feet to 3 feet depth below that festival space. It's not that deep in the ground. And that's one of the things that we're always having an issue with. And the detention ponds that are there, they can only take so much water that filters into that water table, and that's it. Doesn't go any further. So just something to keep in mind for anything that we move forward with doing.
To go back to Shepherd Park, that is the center of
Yeah.
everything, and the views are uncomparable there. I mean, I did want to thank the county for allowing us to close Beach Road so we could have our alternative location for Light Up the Village, which
Big success.
super
Yeah,
success.
it's great. Yeah. But I agree with Supervisor Wild for what it's worth. I'm one person. That we should continue talks. I don't think we should just keep putting a Band-Aid over it, so let's continue talks on it.
Would you like us to have Ethan explore grant opportunities, or?
Yeah, maybe you could.
No,
We talked about this, the most recent turf field is the, of course, SUNY. Theirs was about over 3 million. I think it was about 3.5 million. We looked at this at the time. It was probably an estimate of somewhere between 1.5 to 3 million for just the turf field alone, probably more now. And they're all different kinds of turf. Canopy permanent would be something like about 11 to 15 million probably. So, you're looking at total about a $20 million project. But if you're going to put a canopy over it, you can't have grass anyway underneath that. So you're going to have to replace the field.
Has to be. I think the environmental groups would insist on that. And they have to approve anything we do anyway, according to the contract.
Yeah, that's the last thing I was gonna add is the Westbrook Conservation Initiative that was created, that contract has to be reviewed. I haven't reviewed it in a long time, and I don't know what stipulations are in there, what we're allowed to do with the space, what approvals we have to get from the 2Es now. That's something that has to be taken into account first.
I was going to add too. I think it's difficult to get grants for something like a turf field. Probably a threat. Don't know about a canopy.
Good. Anything else?
Yeah, I'd like to bring something up. I mean, you need to tighten up on the management of the property. I mean, I don't want to sit through another meeting to hear somebody who rents the property complain about things, simple things that could be taken care of. So I think we need to, you know, I know we're looking at pie in the sky things to solve it, but right now we have a management issue that we need to deal with, and that should be dealt with before we lease it out to any shows this summer. And I think there's simple things that we can fix, but it needs to be addressed. And I would like to, I'll chair a sit down with the village and the county, and we'll try to work on these. So we don't listen to people who
Right.
pay good money to use the spot and then find out all these other things. You know, I listened to you talk about the tractor trailers. There's a way to prevent the tractor trailers from digging into the grass. I mean, all you gotta do is go to Saratoga and watch a race on the turf. Right? They rake it, they put down boards. We could do the same thing up there if that's a problem that's caused, you know, that's a simple one. But I don't want to sit through another meeting, have somebody who uses it complain about all the things we don't do right. And a lot of those were simple things that we should be able to take care of. So I will get you folks together in the springtime, and we're gonna solve those problems this year. I mean, it's not the first time. I know Supervisor Merlino went up there to try to mitigate some of the issues, and then we have to listen to it again. I don't want to listen to it anymore. I've listened to it enough.
Agree with
So
that.
we need to solve those issues, and the other issues will seem to go away. You fix the little ones, then big ones go away.
I agree with that. And Mayor, you have a list like we talked about.
Yeah.
We'll go through and
Thank you.
get us some.
Okay, we'll get together and we'll
Just
get this
finish.
straight now.
Anything else? Pending items, nothing. Privilege of the floor and public comment? Oh,
I
I'm
just
sorry.
wanted to go back to
Sorry.
Kevin. I would not wait until spring. If we can hit this sooner than later.
Yeah, we can do it anytime. When we get free from the other things, we'll get on it and get some of these things addressed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw Paul and Jessica here. I'm not sure if they had anything to add to the discussion today. I see Jessica has a sheet.
The only thing that I'd wanna add is, I've only received one application so far for 2026, so have people applied, like fill out applications for 2026?
Like, yeah, I said at the beginning, a lot of the applications don't start trickling in until January, February.
Or it's just interest?
Yeah, there's a lot of interest, and, you know, that's pie in the sky as well, too. Sometimes people really have a great idea, but then they look at the logistics of it and can't afford to put the event on, so.
Okay.
But we field them all regardless.
Good, thank you. Anything else? Privilege of the floor and public? Anybody else? Motion to adjourn. Motion made by Supervisor Wild, seconded by Chairman Garrity.